You know, I consider a tragedy what has been happening to Russia. What Russia is doing to Ukraine is atrocious. It's so unnecessary, useless, terrible. I really have hard time finding right words to explain in English how I feel about that. Um, I feel so terrible what Russia is doing to its neighbor and to the Ukrainians. I'm certainly not sitting on my butt and just watching things happening. But even all my actions that I do, they don't make me feel less terrible. But at the end, Ukraine will win and it will shine. As of Russia, I'm not so sure what will happen to Russia. That's an open question right now. And there are other big questions that are very hard to answer. Such big questions, very extremely important questions. For example, who's responsible? Is it Putin's war or Russians' war? And some more, of course. So without answering these questions and some other ones, us Russians, we will not find salvation. I answered for myself this very important question. Is it Putin's war or Russians' war? To me, it's not just Putin's war and it's not just Russians' war, it's my war. I am very responsible for it. I'm not just saying that I'm solely responsible, no, but there's definitely a part of my fault, collective fault, and there is guilt. But I certainly not taking responsibility of the man who actually started the war, who pressed the button, who made the decision, who's behind making Russia taking Russia from being a good country and making it to a digital prison camp for its citizens. And today I would like to talk about this guy, to share my opinion on him. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia. I give you important news updates here that I find truly explain what is happening in Russia today. What you will not find on this channel is propaganda, lies, and BS. What you will find on this channel is common sense, logic, and truth. And some emotions, because I am a human being, after all. Inside Russia is where usual Russia explained by the unusual Russian. For the first 30 or so minutes, I try to keep it around 30 minutes, I give you a daily message and then I invite everyone to participate in live stream chats, to ask questions, to converse, and give me feedback. I love that very much. So thank you so much for all coming here and watching, giving me a chance. What can I say about today's stream? Folks, so you know, before making this stream, I closed all the windows in my apartment, so there is no possibility of me slipping accidentally some place near window and spring wind of Uzbekistan picking me up and throwing me out of the window. Just know that I'm taking precautions and I'm not about to slip. I'm doing the best I can to stay safe. But doing the stream, I'm definitely letting the spring air and wind inside my house. Now let's talk about who. So who is Vladimir Putin? Let me give you some facts and facts that everyone knows, that more or less public. Some of them not too many know, but they're still public. And then I'll give you my take on who Vladimir Putin is. Now, Vladimir Putin is the president of Russia currently serving for the fourth time. A former KGB spy, one of the most powerful men on earth. The man who started the war with Ukraine. The man personally responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, both Ukrainians and Russians. The man who, by his actions, has isolated Russia from the rest of the world and threw it back in its development for several decades at least. The man responsible for designing Russia's new political dictatorial system called the vertical of power. The man responsible for elimination of political opposition in Russia. The dictator. Vladimir Putin is also wanted by the International War Crime Court in Hague. What I just mentioned is just, some of the details, and of course there are more. But I also have my own opinion of the man, and I'd like to share it with you. I could be wrong at some things. Take it or leave it. I figured it'd be interesting to share my opinion, what I think of the man who will go down in history of my country as Russia's worst nightmare. Who is Vladimir Putin? Now let's talk about the facts, He was born on the 7th of October, 1952 in Leningrad. He is about the same age as my father. Well, my deceased father. Putin's birth was preceded by the deaths of two brothers. Albert, born in 1930s, died in infancy, and Victor, born in 1940, died of diphtheria and starvation in 1942 during the siege of Leningrad, World War II. Putin's mother was a factory worker, and his father was a conscript in the Soviet Navy, serving in the submarine fleet in the early 30s, and I think he was a worker by trade. On September 1st, 1960, Putin started going to school in Leningrad. Now it's called St. Petersburg. There are many engineered lies of his youth. And if you look at the Wikipedia, you will find quite a few lies. And one of them I'll tell you right now. The Wikipedia says that at age 12, in his free time, Putin enjoyed reading the works of Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, and Vladimir Lenin. Well, now, folks, let me tell you something. I am 46 years old, and I have read all of them. Vladimir Lenin, Karl Marx, and Friedrich Engels. And at 46, reading them is as much enjoyment as going to a dentist appointment. Please forgive me, all dentists out there, I can't imagine anyone at the age of 12 doing this easy reading of Marx and Lenin and Engels for fun. I remember myself at the age of 12. I had very different things on my mind. I don't know anyone who, I know very few people who actually read all three, and they definitely didn't read them for fun. But there are some truth about Putin, also in Wikipedia, and truth about his career. At age 12, he began to practice Sambo and Judo. He reached quite high ranking in Judo. I think he was city's champion. Putin studied German in St. Petersburg, in Leningrad High School, and he speaks German as a second language. Well, that's true, but that's not the results of going to and studying German at a high school. That's the result of studying German at KGB spy school. Putin studied law after graduating from high school. He entered Leningrad State University, studied law, so he's an attorney, and he graduated in 1975. He was noticed by KGB followed in his student years, secretly approached by KGB Special Recruitment Force and followed. Later approached openly, and he was made an offer he simply could not refuse. And I'm not being sarcastic here. That's how KGB recruited people, students. They chose the students that fit their needs, and their needs were different. Some were very bright, some were very sly, some were very had leadership qualities, some were unnoticeable, so to speak, unambiguous. But he was made an offer that he couldn't refuse. If he refused, he would be not allowed to graduate university and get his undergraduate degree, and he'd be blacklisted everywhere for the rest of his life in the USSR. So if Putin was approached, he couldn't refuse, really. So I give it to him. Putin made a mediocre career at KGB. Upon graduation from the university, he worked in Leningrad in counterintelligence from 75 until 1984. And then he was summoned to KGB spy school in Moscow, one of the top schools. He started to become a foreign agent, a spy undercover. From 1985 to 1990, Vladimir Putin served in Dresden, East Germany, using a cover identity as a translator. Not much known of his service in Germany. There are different reports from different people, and I think most of the reports cannot be trusted. Okay. Some say he was good, some say he was bad, some say that he did things that people would not be proud of, but, I don't believe any of that. He served there for 5 years, that's a fact, and everything else is speculation, and most likely we will not know of his service. You really need to speak to people who really served alongside him, but they are his friends. They're the elite of Russia. They will not say anything about Putin. So he served for 5 years, that's it. He returned to the USSR, and his career was pretty much over at KGB. He was given a job that something must have happened back in East Germany, because he was not, he was stationed only for 5 years. That's just one term. Usually a good agent was stationed for 2 terms. And if person was not evaluated good, then he would be sent and given some unimportant job. And then Putin was given a job like that. He was sent to oversee Leningrad State University as a KGB curator. And then his lucky star started shining upon him. He met first mayor of Leningrad, Sobchak, a pretty famous figure, in person in the USSR and in Russia. He was considered one of the few real democratic leaders of the USSR and early Russia. Somehow they met, and Sobchak offered Putin a job. So in 91, in June, he became the head of the Committee for Foreign Relations of Leningrad's mayor's office, with responsibility for promoting international relations. And remember, that was still the USSR. The country was just opening to the foreign businesses and foreign world. So it was a pretty important job back then. So with responsibility for promoting international relations and foreign investments, attracting foreign investments into Leningrad. He was also given a position to register joint venture businesses, to give out licenses and permissions. Within a year, Putin was investigated by the City Legislative Council, led by Representative Marina Salye. Oh, I remember that case. I was 14, 15 years at the time, but Salier case was made heard for the entire Russia. The investigation concluded that Vladimir Putin had understated prices and permitted the exports of metals valued at many $million in exchange for foreign aid, food that never arrived. So he allowed some companies to do something in exchange for things they never did. Interesting. The commission, there was an investigation, and the commission recommended to fire Putin. But Putin remained at his job, the head of the committee, until 1996. And guess who was attorney defending Vladimir Putin at that investigation? A young, bright fellow named Dmitry Medvedev. So you just know. In 1996, Putin was fired from his position and blacklisted in St. Petersburg, so he couldn't hold any job. Mayor, his boss, lost the elections to a competitor, and the competitor was a pretty ruthless guy. So the old mayor basically, couldn't hold any job in St. Petersburg, as Leningrad was renamed St. Petersburg in 1991 with assistance of Putin, by the way. So the old mayor couldn't provide the new job for Putin and his buddies. And I saw one early interview Putin gave, I think even before becoming the president. He was saying that in that summer of 96, he was deciding what to do next. And then he was considering different paths for his future life. One of the paths he was seriously considering was emigrating, moving out of Russia permanently. Boy, he should have moved back in 1996 to Miami, to south of Florida, south of France, anywhere. But he should have moved. Why didn't you move, Vladimir? Oh my God. Obviously, he was a rich man by then, In 1996, he was offered a small job at the Kremlin. The rumors have it that he got a job as a favor for his help in the past for someone in St. Petersburg, but no one knows for sure. They're just rumors. And in Moscow, he did very well. He started as deputy chief to Presidential Property Management Department. Basically, a nobody. That's the lowest position you could get. But then he was promoted to many higher positions. Deputy chief of presidential staff, chief of staff. Then he was made the head of the KGB. Then he was made the prime minister of Russia, appointed prime minister of Russia. And then, in the last day of 1999, he became the president of Russia. He was appointed the president of Russia. Yeah, Boris Yeltsin resigned, and Vladimir Putin, according to Russian constitution, assumed the interim position of the president. On that day, Russia's demise started. Well, I've given you brief information on Putin. It's widely available. And of course, you all know what happened after he became the president. He did 2 terms, then he gave his post to his old buddy who defended him back in 1991, Dmitry Medvedev, to, keep the seat, so to speak. Then he returned, and then he served in the 4th time. Things he did in his reign... 10 streams. I need 10 streams, 10 hours to tell you what he has done. Okay, it's just not the point of talking about it right now. The worst thing, basically 2 worst things he did, he created a new Russia. He buried the old Russia and he created the new one, totalitarian. He created the oppression machine. He completely changed the legislation of the country. He started the war with the Ukraine. Wow. Well, anyway, we're not going to be talking about his presidency, but I've just given you brief official information about like what happened before. And this is something you can find at any open source. Go to Wikipedia and then you'll find it there. But now I'd like to share something that you will not find in Wikipedia. My personal opinion and thoughts on him, why and who he is, and why he is like this. Because we're talking about big things. We're talking about, oh, he started the war. Oh, he did so much that. But who he is? How come? How come he's climbed so high? You know. I think that Putin had a pretty difficult childhood. He was coming from poor family. On many occasions, he dined at friends' families, and he still has friends from the old days. Friends like Roll Dugin, Rothenberg, his schoolmates, they're all billionaires now. They're all the inner circle, the trusted ones. Loyalty, they're very loyal to him, and he's loyal to them. Loyalty is one of probably the most important quality he values in people. All his inner circle is his old childhood friends, then people who he later worked in the KGB in Russia, in the USSR, and in Eastern Germany, and then who he worked with in St. Petersburg mayor's office. That's it. There's no one else. Those are the people who he has known for years and years and who he trusts. And that's who is Russia's nobility now. Those are people who are basically own Russia, run Russia, manage everything in Russia, who decide what happens in Russia. I think that Vladimir Putin, when, coming from a poor childhood, when he joined KGB, he got three things. Again, these are my opinions, my speculation. Take it or leave it. That's what I think. So, upon joining KGB, he got three things. First of all, he became well off, not poor anymore. The KGB people were paid well, and they were, the government, the service took care of them. And he got his first taste of power. And of course, power is sweet, and once you have it, you want more and more, and as we know, power corrupts. And the third thing, I think that's very important and it's overlooked. He understood how the Soviet system worked. He understood it from the inside. He stepped behind the curtains, so to speak, and it made him cynical. He learned that in the USSR there was no ideology, just power grab and controlling Soviet people. That wasn't anything uniquely to Putin. Every KGB agent knew that. So he became cynical. He became all for himself. Many people who worked with Putin over the years evaluated him as very accurate, hardworking, rule-abiding, unambitious. Vladimir Putin was always in the shadows of his bosses, never desiring to replace them, to take their places. Unambitious. He was inconspicuous, indistinguishable from background. That's why I think he was made a spy. You look at a person like Vladimir Putin and you don't remember him. There's nothing to catch your sight on. He's out of your memory immediately, The start of his political career and his shining star appeared in 91, He was never meant to be a politician, and he never desired to be a politician. He was placed in charge of financial flows, to control them, to manage them, and to, you know what I mean. remember I told you one of his responsibilities was to give licenses and permissions to certain companies. Well, in Russia, usually it means that you give licenses and permissions to right people and right companies. Putin did marvelous job, if you know what I mean. He kept his word and he was honest to the people who put him into that position in Leningrad. And, and that propelled him to Moscow. That built a reputation for him. And that explains his advancements in his career. He was valued for working hard for his bosses without any ambitions to replace them and being honest with the money flows that he was placed upon and he was given. And I think you understand what I mean by saying honest, to some people. Notice one thing. That is the red line that goes through Putin's life. He was always unambitious and never claimed to become number one. He never participated in elections before he was made the president, of course, but they're not real elections, if you know what I mean. He never was a leader. He never had his fire, the leadership fire inside of him. See, usually the leaders go on top and there's a filter. In order to get on top, in order to climb on top, you have to have this fire burning inside you. That's a huge engine. That's motivation. And you keep on climbing, you keep on advancing, you want to become number one. There are people like that. But there aren't many, okay? Mostly they don't have that ambition. Vladimir Putin was certainly among them. He was made, he was placed at every position he held. KGB, they decided for you. You couldn't come up and say, hey, I want to become a spy. No, you were always made offers at KGB. And you wouldn't stand up and go and say, hey, I want to join KGB. It didn't work like that. They approached you. So they approached Putin, and every time he was promoted, they approached him. They offered him. And he agreed. He was made the head of the committee in Leningrad. He was made. He did not fight for it. He did not win election or anything like that. He was made due to personal preferences of some people. He was invited to go to Moscow by certain people. He was given a position in the administration. He was made advanced. He was put into the chairs of different positions in the Kremlin administration. He was made the head of KGB. He was made the prime minister. He was made the president. He never desired to become any one of those, people, positions. There are some claims that oligarchs who placed him at the president's position, and it took them a while to convince Vladimir Putin to become the president of Russia. He wanted to become a head of Gazprom instead. He didn't want to become the president. But they were very convincing. They convinced him. All right, they did. And this is actually a fact. There are so many people. There's evidence of lots of people talked about how this process was happened. So I totally believe that. So he was put into the position of power because they thought that he was unambiguous. They thought he was not going to harm them. They thought that he was a little gray, unambitious man, very quiet, very hardworking, who would safeguard their billions and let them continue rule Russia. That's who Vladimir Putin is. An unambiguous man, hardworking, but without fire of leadership. Once Putin became president, something happened. Obviously he had his own plans. He got power, and the power corrupts. The more you get it, the more you want it, and most likely he started changing. He wanted to keep power, and what he did, he was educated as a KGB spy. He's not a dummy. They never worked with dumb people there. And he was actually singled out by the KGB. He was followed, he was evaluated, and so forth. He was never a dumb man. He was fairly smart. He had to be. So he had his own plans. Oligarchs forgot that he was the KGB spy in the first place, an operative, undercover. That's pretty big deal. So he wanted to keep power, and what he did, it was actually very smart. And I said many times, the Russian government, that's him, that he created the Russian government in this current form. He replaced the existing team. He depowered people who placed him into the power, positioned him into the chair of power, so to speak, and surrounded himself with his friends, loyal friends. Remember I told you he values loyalty in people, number one quality? So he's pretty much bulletproof because he's circled by friends, colleagues, perhaps relatives. Not too much known about his relatives, but definitely people who served in the past and so forth. He's been very successful in surrounding himself with people, trusted people, so to speak. He's remained in power for 20 years, over 20 years now. So he's been pretty efficient and successful. But now listen to me, this is very important. He never changed. Over all those years, he's being the president, he's remained inconspicuous. He never took charge. He never became the leader the president should be, leading people. He got the power, all right, but he never became the leader. He never came to people. He never led by the example. By the will of fate, he got power, huge power. But he still had and has his goals from the old days. And the goals are small. And the goals are just to enrich himself and his friends and keep the power. And for as long as possible. That's it. Remember, he became, I think, I could be wrong, of course, but I think he became cynical in KGB at a young age when, upon graduating university. He saw that the Soviet system was not about people, was not about public good, but was about power, raw power, and enriching yourself. And this is what he knows, and this is how he has led Russia for the past 22 years. His goals never changed. He never understood that with great power come great responsibilities, okay? He never understood that he could have taken Russia and changed it for turning it into a magnificent country. He had means for that, he had all the resources. He never understood that. He never understood that, as president of Russia, he is the man of people. He never met people, and now he just sits someplace, no one knows where, and even with his friends, he converses by TV calls, He's not the leader Russia needed to have, just by the will of fate, he got into the position of being number one in Russia. He never wanted, he never desired that. He got to sit in a huge chair. He always, he's sitting right now, huge chair. Remember, you must have seen the pictures when foreign leaders like Emmanuel Macron comes to him to visit. He invites everyone into this huge room with a huge table and the huge chairs where people look like dwarfs, like tiny specks. So, and that's his chair. That's his size. He sits in that huge chair, but he remains a small, inconspicuous man. And he is a small man in the big chair. And he'll be remembered as the worst president in the history of Russia. And this is my opinion. Thank you so much for giving me a chance. This has been my message for today. Would you please consider joining the live stream chat, letting me know what you think. Keep the chat civil. Mods are there to keep it nice and clean. Use common sense before you type something. Before I turn the chat on, I'd like to ask you to do me a couple favors. Please help me spread my message by making reposts in your social media accounts, and please sign up for my Telegram channel called Inside Konstantin's Russia. The link will be in the description below. This is where I make announcements for upcoming streams. Also, if you really liked what you heard today, you could consider becoming patrons on Patreon or buy me a coffee, or like or subscribe to the channel, or like this video, this live stream. So thank you so much. The chat is on. And I would love to hear your opinions. I apologize for postponing the start of the stream by 30 minutes. I had technical problems with difficulties with my computer. All is well now. Thank you so much. Well, let me tell you, folks, after the stream, I'm certainly, not making a list of Putin's friends. But like I said, I'm being honest. I tell you what I think. Mods, howdy, howdy. Thank you for coming. Lorna, Mommy, Black Cat, Bob, Harry, and Amir, I think are not here, but they're always with us in our minds and hearts. And the usual suspects, thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to have you. If you want me to notice your message easier, please put it in caps. Put after Inside Russia after @ so it appears highlighted in orange. Thank you. Hans Ulrich Fischer, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. No message, but this message is pretty strong. Pine the Chair from the Netherlands. Rotterdam, right? Jimmy Penrose from Edgecombe, Maine. Jason Carney, thank you so very much for generous support. You are the champion of super chatting and supporting. Thank you, thank you, thank you from me and Natasha. So, folks, how did you like my message? Did you learn anything new? Or nothing? Tom W., howdy. Amanda. Sam K. Lars Henrik, good to see you. Airborne Snail. Chirper, JR Multi Ducky. Live, howdy, howdy. Aaron, yes, you are on time. Theodore. Pacific Beach, California is in the house as usual. Charlie. Jim, he is not so small. He is 5 foot 6 inches tall. So was Napoleon Bonaparte. Wonder if he has Napoleon complex. That I don't know. We have a new sponsor, Mario. Welcome to Inside Russia. Thank you. Andrew Baker, thank you for your support. Thank you. Joan Sandel, Mr. Sandel. You think Russia has had fair elections? If yes, when? If not, why? Well, I think we had fair elections, the last ones in 1996. We did. I remember I participated, I voted right before I left for America. After that, perhaps somewhat honest in 2000, but I was already not in Russia, I don't know. Why? What do you mean why? There's one reason for that. People want to keep power by any means possible. That's why. It's actually a balance. People want to keep power, and the citizens who are supposed to watch, and it's their country, it's their elections, they close their eyes and go into lethargic sleep for some reason, and this is what happens. That's why. Jason Carney has just given sponsorship to 5 people. Jason, again, thank you so much. Thank you. XYZ, quite a message, very informative. Thank you. Thank you for the support and feedback. Tom Cup. Hey, I'm always amazed about the golden huge doors and those palaces he walks in. Me too. Me too. There's a story. I tell you, but sorry, I will fall late. Fall back on comments. So I come to the United States, 1996. If you remember what happened in that year, I'll give you 2 names: Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. The presidential race. The elections in November. And I start school in September, and the race is at full speed. Well, one of the days on campus, all of a sudden we have tons of people coming in, and Bill Clinton shows up. And a friend of mine, well, my roommate, or I don't remember, like a friend at school, he's like, let's go see the president. I thought he was pulling my leg, but then we go to a campus center, like not a huge like room with like 100 people, and we just stand in there, and all of a sudden Bill Clinton walks in, accompanied by a couple secret agents, Secret Service agents, and but he's available, he's open, he smiles, he's a live person, he comes and starts shaking our hands. And he comes and shakes my hand, and I was like, I couldn't speak. I was absolutely. And then that's the difference. Russian presidents, they don't do anything like that because they think that they got chosen by God to lead the country with absolute power, and they don't consider people as equals. Okay, in America, perhaps in other countries too, a president is just a job that you hold for 4 or 8, if you're lucky, for 8 years if you do a good job. And that's it. No matter what you do after that, you're out of the job. And then you become a normal person again. You live among regular people. Russian presidents do not live among regular people. They're czars. Okay, that's the difference. Marcus, very interesting talk. Hang on, I'll Steve Hayes. Howdy. Have a coffee from Steve and Heather. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Marcus, very interesting talk. I read Masha Gessen's The Man Without a Face, and she was pointing out that he cashed in on oil for food fraud in St. Petersburg in the early 90s by singing allowance. That's the Salier, the case of Marina Salier. That's what I was talking about. That's exactly what she meant. That was a pretty famous case. But he kept his job, and the commission investigated, and they probably said, well, let them investigate, let them continue doing what they're doing. We don't care. Because people who were responsible for his job, they were probably beneficiaries, Again, this is my it's not a fact. This is my speculation, let's put it this way. I'm not saying it happened, but that's the possibility of that happening. Jekyll N from Australia, thank you so very much. I appreciate your coming back and supporting. And as usual, you support without question or message. But trust me, every time I see it, it's a pretty strong message sent. Thank you. Find the check, couldn't be on live stream a couple of days, but seen all afterwards. Thank you so much. Truffles, you are off Putin Christmas card list now. That's for sure. What now? Slow mode chat. It's always been like a couple of minutes, I think. Richard Montes de Orca, hello from sunny Tampa. Big guy and mods. He's unremarkable man that with enormous power. Well, I wouldn't say he's unremarkable. He's definitely made his mark. All right, at least people in Hague think so. There's a very good word. I think it's the right word. Not unremarkable, but hang on. Really hard to say. Unconspicuous, I think. Unconspicuous, yes. Unconspicuous. Okay, that's what he is. But he definitely left his mark. SF Joe, howdy. He's an attorney, of course. Yeah. N. Larson, howdy. Eddie Santos, can't it put your life at risk? Well, we're all gonna die one day, Carlson Larrymore, my opinion, Gorbachev was the best president. Makes two of us, I think so too. Had high hopes when Putin showed up. But like most countries, we were deceived and played right into his hands after Ukraine wins. I hope we don't. I think many people learned a lesson, Thank you, Carlson. White Lightning, what role do you think the Russian mafia of foreign governments play in Putin's rise to power? Non-existent. Russian mafia, he had to have contacts with Russian mafia in the 90s because he was in a position of power. You gotta understand, if you hold a position like that, like anyone, it doesn't matter who, would have contacts with mafia. And I'm not saying he worked for mafia, but mafia definitely came and probably threatened him and forced him to give licenses and things like that, So he was never a part of any mafia group. At least I have not heard of it. He did not work with them or things like that. But he was aware of them. They were aware of him. And the foreign governments, give me a break. I don't think so. This guy was out for himself and the people, his bosses who put him into the place. And the bosses higher caliber politicians, not mafia, So he owes his rise to power to something else. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if it's will of fate or I don't know. That I cannot answer. Jeffrey S. Good read. Thank you. Michael Petrie from Toronto, Canada. Howdy. Yes, again, thank you, Jason Carney. Thank you. Theodore Anderson, did you hear about Putin's line? I have no clue what you mean. What is Putin's line? Vladimir Kara-Murza, your opinion. Oh, Jason, I'm gonna make a stream about that. It's a shame. It's a shame what they're doing to him. 25 years. Serial killers get 24 years, 23, 20 years. Kara-Murza got 25 years, you know. At times like this and times like this, what happens to... I'll talk more about it in the upcoming stream, perhaps tomorrow. Jason Superhero. Hello, Highwayman. Mark Bramlett from Jacksonville, Florida, as usual. Sean, howdy, thank you for the super chat. That was a very balanced message. I also think that he tried to take things forward, and NATO's snubbed, squashed, and thought, leaving him only with the USSR to pursue. Sending dollars via Buy Me a Coffee. Big hugs. Thank you so much, Sean. Pleasure to see you here. Thank you. Good message. You know what? There was a period of Vladimir Putin's reign. First few months, there was a hope for him to join the light side, the side of light. He was not helped. He was not, basically, he was left alone. All right, he was not helped. No one worked against him, but no one helped him out. I think if NATO accepted Russia back in early 2000s, I think things would have been different. Very, very different. Funky Fudge 11, thank you. Again, what are your thoughts on Kara-Murza? I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of this thing that happened to him. I hope he gets out of prison before serving 25 years. Well, it's not about 25 years. They're gonna kill him in prison. I mean, that's obvious. Like they're killing Navalny right now, slowly killing him. I just hope that something happens and Kara-Murza is out and Navalny is out. Liam and Medicine. Where has been the Russian military? Why no power struggle? It's going on. It's happening right now as we speak. Russian military was downplayed by Boris Yeltsin. No, it was not downplayed. I'm sorry. The police force was downplayed because supported the coup in 91, and the military came to help Boris Yeltsin. So he promoted military. But you can trust on that there are power groups inside of military, and I think that Putin currently is afraid. They claim he went to the front lines yesterday, and guess what? He never even met the Minister of defense and he never discussed it with him. That, to me, that speaks volumes. Yes, no one gets within 10 meters of the real one. That's sad fact. George Roberti, thank you so much. How do I say your name? With an emphasis on first, on U or E? Would you please let me know? Damien, thank you so much for coming back. Pleasure, intellectual pleasure to have you here. Thank you. Do you believe we saw the real Putin in his Munich speech in 2008? Before that, he needed us. There was no NATO snub, just Kremlin talking point. I heard many opinions that there was no NATO snub, but it was not in 2008. First of all, the Munich speech happened not in 2008. I'm pretty sure it happened in 2006. So, to not mislead you, let me check it out, double check. And that's a very important event in Russian history. 10th of February of 2007, so beginning of 2007, that happened. 2008, Dmitry Medvedev became the president. Before that, he needed us. There was no NATO snub. I can't call it snub, but NATO did not cooperate when he wanted to join NATO. He was running around, making it Russia's national goal. Oh, soon we will be part of the West. Soon we will be welcomed, equal there. Soon we will join NATO. That's what Putin was openly saying in the interviews, okay? And then the NATO didn't happen. And as far as I know, they wanted to apply. So they just didn't agree on some things. I don't know. If they did, everything would be different. Now, I heard different opinions. I heard that he never applied, but I clearly remember early 2000s, and things were so much different. Munich speech in 2007 is already a different part of Russian history, okay? Paula W., everything you said about Putin I learned just now. You would think him being poor as a child, he would treat the poor better. I think that something happened to him when he was a child, something we don't know, we will never know, but something that influenced him and keeps on influencing right now. Something that's, it's very strange. It seems like he lives in a bubble. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't meet people. He doesn't meet anyone. He relies on people to get him information. And he's lied to, he's misinformed, information is given wrong, and people playing political games, they give him information that benefit them, and he's not the leader, you see, he does not take charge. He does not stand up and say something like, you know what, now this is my time, now this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go and talk to these people. He doesn't do that. You know what, my friends, please do not discuss Biden or Trump or American politics. This is not the platform to discuss that, okay? So please, if you do that, you'd be silenced. Simply, I asked mod to do that. I asked my mods to do that. It's simply not the place and not the time. Why do you insist on bringing American leaders in? I don't understand. Exodus, thank you for your message. All of your stream, I was reminded, as a German, a dark leader we had about 80 years ago. Ooh, if you knew how much we think about that. You see, your past, that's your past, 80 years ago. This is our present and future. Do you see those parallels as well, or is it totally different? It's a rhetorical question, you know. Any normal person would see the parallels. Kurt, I read that he's 5'3" and was bullied at school. Perhaps he was. That's a speculation. I don't know. None of us do. Looking for comments in capital letters. Guy, that whole office staff, along with his first boss, died or fell from windows? No, that is not true. They are close friends. They rule Russia. German Gref is head of Russia's largest bank, Sberbank. Elvira Nabiulina is the head of central bank. Dmitry Kozak is still in the game. Dmitry Medvedev, gosh, he was the president of Russia. Valentina Matvienko is the speaker of the upper house of the parliament, upper chamber. What are you talking? None of them died. He cares about those people who he worked with the first mayor. The first mayor died, but he died of heart attack. You know, it's nothing strange about his death. Okay, there was lots of stress. Actually, I'm gonna give you a fact that is little known about Putin. Imagine this. Putin is a victim of political struggle in St. Petersburg and Leningrad back in '96. The mayor, Sobchak, loses elections, and the new mayor comes in and immediately fires everyone, the entire team of the old mayor. And Putin, someone made a mistake and didn't revoke his pass for entering the mayorate building. And he actually attended 2 or 3 days, and he went to his, office and sat there and used telephone and everything. And then all of a sudden, someone saw him. Was like, "What is this guy doing here?" So they took away his pass, and Putin is jobless, and he's given a blacklist, a black card, so to speak, meaning no one can hire him in St. Petersburg because he's the enemy of current political group. And Putin, when he became president, he did not go after that new mayor who blacklisted him. He actually invited him to Moscow. He gave him a high position in the government, and the guy worked for a few years, and he had a very important position in the Russian government. So Putin did not get rid of the previous enemies or political opponents. He only cared and cares about threats to his power. If a person is not a threat to his power, then the person is left alone. And the thing is, Guy, Putin's strength is in that he's surrounded by the trusted people who are loyal to him. Okay, if he killed everyone, well, not killed, but if he got rid of everyone, then he'd be out of the office. He would be weak. His strength is in his team, in his people. Diana Smith, yes, I had been trying to think what a real leader looks like, so it's good to have you remind us of Clinton. He had that, he certainly did. He had a vision of a better world too. Yes. Can't really judge his policies that much, and I'm not going to. But anyway, we can go what happened further to the Clinton Foundation, but again, please let's not talk about American politics here. Was that Putin in Ukraine today or his double? That's a talk of the town today. What happens is when someone wants to meet Vladimir Putin, then usually that person must be in quarantine for a week at least. Because Putin does not get close to anyone. When he makes his, when he made his infamous address on the 21st of February, I don't know if anyone of you noticed that he was like 50 meters from people. Okay, on TV it looked like he was right next to people sitting, but in reality, you could look at the binoculars looking for people. So, and all of a sudden he pops up and he drives around and he goes. There's food for thought here. What do you think Poland and Hungary banned grain and food imports from Ukraine? I have not heard of that. That must have been a very recent development. Seems contrary to Polish support for Ukraine we've seen to date. Funky Fudge, I will investigate. I don't really, it's been a busy day, and basically I didn't do anything in terms of watching the news except for getting ready for the stream. BC, excellent message. Thank you. Keep on speaking the truth. You can count on me doing that. Unfortunately, authoritarian rhetoric is on the rise. I pray we don't make the same mistakes. Please don't. Learn from our mistakes. Don't make your own. Putin wasn't born in Leningrad. Just Google Vera Putina. There are rumors and conspiracy theories. I didn't say anything about that because you cannot check them. Okay, there are different stories about his place of birth and when he was growing up before he moved to St. Petersburg to Leningrad. But what good does it make to talk about that? It doesn't matter. Okay, where he was born. Galaxy Rider, thank you so very much. How's my favorite Russian? Always happy to catch you live. Thank you for your support. Your favorite Russian is, well, taking extra precautions for not to accidentally sleep and fall out of the window. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to see you. Come more often, please. Nancy Darling, thank you. Inconspicuous. Okay. Infamous. Okay. Just theory. Howdy, howdy. Putin may not be good for Russia, but he's definitely good for the Jews. I have no clue what you're saying. I think Jews are the same as their Russian citizens. We're Muslim, Christian, Jews, Buddhists. Who cares? We're Russian citizens. Our rights, they don't matter. They don't they're not up to our religion. The Jews and the Christians have the same rights as Muslims. So I don't understand this message. Hal Porter, magnificent character sketch. Thank you. I never would have guessed. I knew so little about Putin's life history and biography. So much content compacted into few words yet communicated very complex reality. You know, it took me quite a few hours to get all that information, to fact check and to put it in words, recite. So I give it exactly in the way. Few words, but I don't have much time. It's like 30 plus minutes. That's it. So, and it's so difficult. The Highwayman, thank you so much. Good luck to you with doctor's appointment. Real Madrid to Chelsea, 65 minutes. Jeffrey S., I can't believe you're actually watching football. It's unbelievable. Chair. If Putin's inner trusted circle crumbles, will that be the moment Putin is vulnerable? Not only he's vulnerable, he's gonna be out of the office at that second. Because there are many people who want to get on top, okay? And then he's been fighting them off, fending them off with help of his inner circle. Inner circle keeps him in power. The long Dame one, you gotta wonder if Putin had emigrated in 96, whether another one like him would have just taken his place. Would have been different, one way or another, but it wouldn't have been like this. At least we would have had a chance. Lavrov is an intelligent diplomat. Did he know Putin early as well? I think Lavrov is an exception. Lavrov and Shoigu actually was friends of my friends way back in the 80s when he worked in Sayanogorsk. Shoigu was a minister of defense right now. He was a construction worker. He was an engineer working at Sayanogorsk aluminum plant. Okay, so he is an exception, and Lavrov is an exception. They didn't come from St. Petersburg. Almost everyone else came from St. Petersburg, from the earlier Putin days. Sam K. All right, I'll try now. Alexa, set alarm for 2 a.m. Chris K., you're so right in your opinions. Russia could have been changed into such a wonderful country if it had the right leaders with a fair and robust hierarchy. Yes, thank you, Chris. All right, folks, I think time is up. Thank you, Tom W. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jason Carney and Galaxy Rider. Thank you so much again. Let's pray. Let's pray for Ukraine. Let's pray for Russia. Let's pray for everyone. Will you please join me in prayer? Thank you so much. Tomorrow stream most likely about Kara-Murza, but I don't know. If something different doesn't come up. It's going to be very important, very profound, deep stream about Kara-Murza and anyway. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables. Thank you for giving roofs over our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Thank you for giving us friends, family, colleagues. Please give us wisdom to keep our skies above our children's heads peaceful, and raise our children in a way that when they grow up, they will make this world a better place. We'll never, ever fight in any wars. Please help our children, keep them healthy and safe. Dear Lord, please help Stop the bloodshed in Ukraine. Reach out and touch people who you know you need to touch. Do whatever you know needs to be done. Fill their hearts with love. Give them forgiveness. Have their eyes open. Have them wake up from lethargic sleep they're sleeping. Please fill their hearts with mercy, empathy, and love, so they make the decision to stop the bloodshed. Help every single Ukrainian who has been affected by this terrible tragedy. Answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. Please send angels to all people in Ukraine, so angels keep people away from harm's way. Please help my country, Russia. Send the army of your strongest angels with sharpest swords led by Saint Michael to get rid of the demons that have hijacked Russia. Have it run Russia. Have them run Russia. Have them make Russia peaceful, respected, loving. So they make it good. Please send safe travels to everyone who is traveling right now. Please help everyone who is seeking asylum. Send help and good people their way. Bless everyone who is helping Ukraine and Ukrainians. Help the hungry ones, the homeless, the jobless, the sick, the depressed, the ones with low self-esteem, the ones who think that the entire world is against them. Please reach out and touch their hearts. Send them love. Shine your heavenly light upon those people and surround them in your warmth so they feel better about themselves and about their lives. They recover. They will have better self-esteem. They will find what they need and they will have a shot at happiness. Please keep all people in Ukraine with heat on and electricity on. Don't let bad things happen to them. Please help everyone who is in Ukraine. Answer their prayers, please. Please keep the skies above our all heads peaceful. Please help my country, Russia. Send it a good leader or good leaders that will transform the country and taking them from its current state into a good neighbor to everyone, into a peaceful country, into a country that is respected and loved by others. Open the eyes of the Russians onto what has been happening to them, to their lives, and to their country, so they will be fully aware and they will start making normal decisions. I would like to ask you to help all the pregnant women who are deciding whether to keep or not their babies right now. Please reach out and speak to them so they all make the right choice. Thank you so much for bringing us together into this community. Thank you for allowing us to pray. Help everyone who is praying right now, or just watch us praying. Answer everyone's prayer and make everyone's wish come true. Thank you so much. There are some people I would like to ask you for. They need your help. They are Larry, Yelena, Natasha, Jake, Michael, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Bonnie, Galina, Igor, Karen from Maine, Michael Milkowitz, Marlene, Paul Binz, Richard, Mallory M., Dirk Misler, James Rhodes, Terry, Richard Burris, Angelica at Life, and Scan Family's grandson, Barb, Randolph, Nelly, Arkady, and Yuri, Harry's family, Merlinda's niece, Ian James, Doug, Priscilla, Michelin, King Nero, Gabby Hyman, Donald, Deborah, Lisa's son, Jade Kaltenberg, Allison Dave Moyers, Maureen M. and her sister, Mr. Hansen, Heidi, Bob, Matt, Ashley and family, Mr. Dean Spooner, his church called Our Savior Lutheran Church, Lisa Cumrian, Jacob, Adam Oliver, Amy, Treasure, Kyle's wife, Maggie, Vladislav and his father Sergey, Susan Myler, Gina, Wayfarer, EMS paramedic Liz, Karen, Lori Miles, husband, Sherry, Layla, Philip's mother, Thomas Fallen, his mother, Greg, Jim and Shirley Hall, Delaney and two daughters, Ann Larson, her family and daughter Hannah, Florentina, Carolyn Rydnor, Mag's family, Sherry Morin, CKOC, Brian Wilkes, Liz Dumbrell, Ripted, daughter of Aspen English, Ruth, Alona and her children, Susan, Paul, Darla, Bip, Rudy Kaisley, Ivan Gershkovich, Santa's Whiskey, White Lightning, Liz Dumbrell's family, George Ruberti, Dave Strains, Wayne, Shirley, Debbie, Jen Allen, Finola, Lars Henrik and Lars Henrik's mom, Lazarus, Choris and family, David Potter and family, Essie from the Scottish Isles, the Highwayman, Amanda Rydnor, Outlander and family, Boss Salmon, Teresa D, Alvin's sister, Garcia Castellanos, Terry Carter, Joe and Lee McMahon, Meta Spencer, Deanna F, Breeze Friends, Caroline, Albina Fell, Michael Yukon, Live, Joel, Karine Vasseur, Lindsay, Pamela J. And I also would like to ask for a few special children. They are Maverick, Sebastian, Cadence, Coulter, Theo, Madi, Karine Vasseur's niece, and Ansley. Please send recovery, give them good health, and send their families strength, please. I am also asking for all children from Ukraine who have been affected by this terrible tragedy, by the war, by the actions of bad people, and children of Russia who also have been affected. Please help them. Don't leave them. Send them your love and surround them with your warmth. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. My friends, thank you so very much for coming. Thanks for listening, giving me a chance. You're absolutely awesome, and you rock. You're the best community online and offline as well. Thank you so very much. Before I go, I would like to see you tomorrow at the same time. Another message. And right now, before I sign off, I would like everyone to say along with me, Carthago delenda est.